Hey guys, Horrorman back for another review. So today we're going to take a look at the Storm Collectibles Mortal Kombat Motaro figure. Now this is, from what I could tell, it's probably the biggest Storm Collectibles figure, at least in the Mortal Kombat line. It's going to be interesting to see if he's the same height as Goro or bigger, but he's definitely a very large figure. But you can see the box is huge. So just like the regular Storm Collectibles Mortal Kombat figures, you have that same type of window box packaging. So you got the Mortal Kombat logo, you can clearly see it says Motaro, and then you have a really cool picture of him on that far right side. And then it just says Storm Collectibles Action Series, and you can see the figure pretty well through the window. They put this plastic over top of the figure in the front, and it really kind of hurts to see the figure in the packaging. So if you're an inbox collector, that's the only thing about this line is you can't clearly see the figure in that box. But they are amazing looking boxes. And if you get the angle right, you can actually see his whole face because it goes over to the side of the packaging. So really cool, and it's like that on all the different Mortal Kombat boxes. And then over to the back, you get a really cool product shot of Motaro on the left side. It does show you the different interchangeable head sculpts and some of the accessories with some really cool product photography shots as well. You do also get some of the logos for NetherRealm, Warner Brothers, Storm, and such. So I'm excited for this one. This is a really cool looking piece for Storm, and we've already seen some awesome large-scale figures, so I'm going to be really interested to see how this compares to everything. So let's go ahead and get this out of the box and get a closer look. Alright, so here he is outside of the packaging, and man, this thing is gigantic. He is definitely the biggest, he's probably the biggest, one of the biggest figures I have next to some of my 80s like Dino Riders stuff, but he is huge. And he should be, because he is a very big Mortal Kombat character. Now, as you can see, I have him pictured with the skeleton. And I know this is an accessory, but I gotta be honest with you, in my opinion, this is definitely a figure on its own. This skeleton is so freaking cool, man. I know Storm did a 2-pack of like these skeleton warriors, and this is definitely from that 2-pack, and I think a lot of people already know that. But the blood on the skeleton just makes it look so much cooler, in my opinion. So if you were like on the fence about getting this Motaro figure, this little skeleton might actually win you over, as it's probably the coolest accessory next to Shao Kahn's throne for any of these Mortal Kombat figures. So we'll go ahead and take a look at both of the figures, and I will show him as more of an accessory as well, because he does have some really cool posability as far as like the skeleton. So he can look like a really cool fatality piece. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the things. So you do get this Mortal Kombat backdrop, and it's one of the things you get with like every Mortal Kombat Storm Collectibles figure, and it just has the classic Mortal Kombat logo on the back. The only difference really between these is the size of them compared to that, you know, how the box is for each corresponding figure, but also they change the color for each of the backdrops. So each character definitely has like a slightly different color added. Like for Reptile, they added green. And we'll go ahead and talk about each different character. We'll look at the accessories, which you really don't get that many accessories with this, and it's probably why they give us such a cool skeleton. And then we'll do some comparisons with some Mortal Kombat figures, maybe some skeletons, and some other things. So let's go ahead on with the review and take a look at Motaro's head sculpt. Alright, so taking a look at Motaro's head sculpt here, I think Storm's really knocked it out of the park with this. Now, it's going to be questionable which head sculpt I like more, but this looks phenomenal, man. They just nail it with these video game sculpts. I mean, it just looks just like I remember. So you got this really cool kind of like mohawk look through the center of his head there. You see he's got like the whited out eyes, and I really like the expression. I mean, you can see like the lines in his face, like just under like the cheekbones and kind of like around here, just the chin. I mean, it looks like very realistic, and I just appreciate that they put so much work into these head sculpts. They're not just after making the bodies look cool and just, you know, kind of, you know, not doing a lot of attention to detail in the faces. I mean, they're definitely nailing it with this. And just taking a look at the side, you got a really nice profile going on. You can see again that mohawk looks really cool. And even though he's got these horns, it really doesn't hurt him from rotating his head. You can even rotate it all the way around. You can see the back of the head sculpt there. But yeah, because they have that ram shape to the horns, it really doesn't hurt his articulation at all. Now you do get two different head sculpts with this Motaro, as I was saying, and the second head sculpt is completely different. So you do get the angry face, and I really like the look of this. Matter of fact, it's gonna be a tough call to decide which one I like more. But the head sculpts are generally fairly easy to pop off. You can just kind of take it off like that. Kind of see it underneath what's going on there. So you just go ahead and pop this new one on, and then you have it right there. And yeah, man, I think I like this head sculpt better. I mean, I definitely like the kind of stern, neutral, I guess, head sculpt, but this one is definitely going to be a lot more fun for fighting shots and action pictures, things like that. But yeah, another great head sculpt. I really like the teeth here. The teeth are really well done. You can see the tongue kind of peeking through there. I like the brow. You can see the brow is a little bit more defined, I guess. You can definitely see the more like angry eyebrows, I guess. But you got the white eye. But yeah, man, I mean, I think the screaming open mouth head is probably the best one, at least in my opinion. Alright, and looking at the rest of Motaro's physique here, he does have a really awesome build to him. Just from this angle, he just looks like a regular kind of muscle-bound dude. But you do have that kind of hellish type of color scheme to him. So you do have a bit of a lighter wash on the chest area, which looks pretty cool, and then you have a much more darker tones around the outside of that wash. So I do like how that kind of breaks up with the highlights and shadows, and it really works well on the abs that he has here. And in terms of like his muscle build, it looks pretty good. He does have a couple things that you wouldn't normally see on your regular characters. He has these like spikes on his elbows, which look really cool. Do really like that attention to detail. And he can pose really well for as odd of a shape as he is. And of course you can see his nipples here. You got some really cool veins kind of going through the arms and the biceps. So overall, I really like the overall build to him. And then looking at his back, again, I mean, the muscle tone is just really, really well done. And you can also see that same kind of lighter wash kind of going through the back, just like you did with the chest. So again, it adds this nice highlights and kind of shadows to the lower portions. But it overall just looks really cool. And you can see the spikes on the elbows just a little bit better here. And I really love that they painted them. And what's really awesome is they've actually painted the nails as well. So it's kind of got that same look. So you got the nails, the horns, the mohawk, and you got, just everything kind of just goes together with the darker tones. So I'm glad that they painted all that. It just comes together better. When you see like the hooves on his feet, there's little spikes on his like feet as well. So you could see all that, and it really comes together nicely in a nice color palette. They just didn't miss anything on this figure. And then looking at the lower half of the body, this is where you're really going to get a lot of that feel of what Motaro is. I mean, he is a Centaur. He's a half man, half horse. So you're going to get everything you expected with this figure. And Storm just let loose on the bottom half of this figure. I mean, the top half looks amazing, but the bottom half is just like, it's insane, man. The articulation, the details, the sculpting, the paint is just through the roof. So you do have this really cool kind of like skirt piece almost, and you have a couple different tones here. You got a nice bright silver on here, which looks awesome. Then you have that black that kind of goes along with everything else, kind of like this charcoal, almost black color. So you get it on all these little different pieces that really kind of bring it all together. But then I guess you got that really nice muscular, horse legs to him. You got the veins coming through, just like you saw with the muscles, and then you can see all the different pieces of articulation here. So it's going to move pretty well. And of course, you have the hooves, and then you have these little like spike things on the back of around the hooves. So really cool, and that goes along really nice with the elbow spikes. But yeah, man, just overall really nice. And look at all the veins in the legs here. All right, and then finally back to like the back portion of the body here. I really do like the different like hair texture here. You can see some really cool pattern to the back, which looks really cool. But again, yeah, you can see a lot of that different hair pattern texture to them. And you can see that the piece, like this skirt piece around the front half, goes all the way back to the tail, so it's like his armor. So that looks really cool. I definitely like that look. And it even has like this kind of like I don't know what you want to call it, like kind of beveled or like hammered look to it. So it looks like real armor. So I really like the way that looks. And of course the back legs are different than the front. You can see how the angle's kind of back a little bit more, so you do have the longer legs, just like a horse would have. So that looks really, really good. But yeah, man, just an overall fantastic look here. The tail itself is really fantastic. I mean, it moves really good, it looks great, and it does pose very well. And it will basically manipulate most shapes. You can see how it'll bend here. So whatever shape you want to put it into to pose it, you want to wrap an enemy in it or something like that. It's just got a lot of posability to it. So really happy with how they did that. Alright, so for the first accessory, technically, is this bloody skeleton. But man, he's just such a cool accessory. I gotta count him as a figure. I mean, he's just too cool. So I'm gonna take a quick look at him just to show you what he has to offer, because I think a lot of people are gonna be excited for this thing. First of all, you can see the detail on the head sculpt is amazing. Now he actually does have a hinged jaw, and it will open a pretty good bit. So you do have some kind of posability there. And just looking at the upper torso real quick and the hands again, I mean, you can see the detail in this skeleton is just really, really good. All the blood, all the details, and the blood was done so well. It wasn't just like the whole thing was just painted red. I mean, it's splotchy, it's missing in parts. That's the way it should be. I mean, this thing is like dripping in blood. And here he is, just kind of the full body here, blood all showing. I mean, yeah, man, he's a cool figure. He's just too cool. Just really good attention to detail here. Now, I did show you how he has a movable jaw, so the arms can go all the way out. You know, get your T pose or whatever, all the way down. You got the pretty good rotation for his elbows here. The hands can move up and down and spin around if they need to. He can move the top half of his spine here. You can just basically twist. You do have good range with the head sculpt, so you could look up and down pretty good, as opposed, and also, you know, the hinge jaw. Legs can go all the way out, go forward pretty bit. You could rotate the bottom of the spine. You could sit down. So, I mean, like I said, he's got so much articulation, so much posability, so much detail. He's a figure. He is definitely a figure. He is not an accessory. And I'm so happy they included this thing, man. I mean, he really, to me, kind of makes Motaro better than I thought he was going to be honest with you. Like, I was excited for Motaro in general, but seeing this skeleton is just so freaking cool, man. I'll try to do some kind of like de-amazing pose here. So pretty cool. And then I'll show you the accessories real quick with him as well. And he does come with these really cool interchangeable hands. You don't actually get like accessories with him. You're not going to get the sword and shield like you saw with the other guys. But they do give you some really cool hands here. So the hands out of the box are kind of filled in. They're almost like a fist but not, I mean, I guess you would consider these the fisted hands. And then the other hands, you get the gripping hands, you get these slightly open hands, you get these kind of like claw type of hands, and then you get these, like, I guess relaxed type of hands. These hands are kind of like pointing, like a finger pointing, which is pretty cool. So yeah, you actually get 5 sets of hands for this guy. And you do get 3 sets of hands for Motaro. You have the fisted hands, which are basically the ones that are on him inside of the box. You also get these really relaxed or open hands, and then you get these kind of choking hands. And the detail and everything is really good. You do have the nails painted on each different set of hands, so no detail was lost on any of the additional parts. So really cool. And then of course you get the additional head. So pretty good accessories overall for Motaro. But you also get one more. Alright, so the final accessory you get with Motaro is this fireball accessory, and it's kind of just meant to be like his special attack or whatever move. And they've done this with different characters before. I know Goro had an effect that's almost exactly like this. So it basically looks like an egg almost, like an alien egg or something. But you can see some red, clear, and some like kind of fading of from clear to red. So it's a pretty cool looking piece, but the effect itself is a little hard to work. So you do get a disc on the bottom, and it's got 5 individual ports that you can pick from, whichever basically suits your photo. And it actually comes with 6 of these individual pieces, and you can stack it up as high as you can. And you can kind of get this higher up so you can do some different effects. But in the game, I know this fireball, at least from what I remember, came from the tail. And that's the problem with this effect. It's hard to get it in the right angle, especially with a 2D game, to kind of, you know, replicate those old Mortal Kombat scenes. So it is a little tough to work the effect. It's a cool idea, but it's probably not my favorite piece that comes with this. Now besides that, you also do get a couple of extra pegs just for the joints, just in case you lose one. And then just to show you also with this, there is a little hole at the bottom of it, and then you just port that into the stand, and then it will stand no problem, and you can move it around any way you want. And here's just one example using the effect to kind of make it look like it's coming from the tail, and you can just kind of have it hitting Scorpion or something like that. Maybe a little bit of Photoshop, a little bit of cropping, you can make this look pretty cool. So there is possibilities to this effect, but it's definitely not my favorite effect. Alright, so Motaro does have a ton of articulation, and I'm going to go over that as quickly as I can. I'm not always the best at this, so I do apologize for that. We already kind of talked about the head sculpt, how it can rotate all the way around if you need, no issues there. The arm can go all the way out. He does have that really cool like shoulder, you know, extra like shoulder articulation. You can move the bicep here. You have the double hinged elbows, and the hands can rotate, and they can pivot up and down, no issue there. The front of him is a little squeaky, and it can rotate as well, no issue. He can look, or like kind of move his upper body down and up, and that's about as far as he can go. Kind of rotate to the side a little bit. His front legs can go out that far. Not really back, they just go down. They can bend here, but it's very tough. It's tough to go back, but you can go forward. And then the knees here can bend, and then you can swivel the lower part, I believe. Let's see here. No, it actually just kind of pivots like just a little bit forward. So that's all you get out of that. So pretty good rotation on the front leg. And in the back leg, you can move the knee part and go up and down here. And then you can move this piece here a little bit. You can see it kind of holds the pose, which is great. If you're not, you know, an expert on Centaur anatomy, you don't have to worry about it going too far out of line. So pretty good articulation overall for Motaro. And we already kind of looked at the tail, but the tail can bend all around. And with a little help of the tail, you can really get Motaro to balance in some pretty crazy poses. So even though he is a very heavy figure, very large figure, the tail really can support the weight. Alright, so for the first comparison, here's Motaro next to the skeleton. And you can see these guys scale pretty good together. And if you put the right, like, gripping hands onto Motaro, you can see he can hold that skeleton accessory really well. And I changed the hands on the skeleton to the more relaxed hands, kind of put him in a more lifeless pose. And it looks so badass. I mean, this has got to be one of the coolest accessories ever released with a figure, man. It just looks so cool. Here he is with some of the MK1 Mortal Kombat Storm Collectibles ninjas. And these are like the original Storm ninjas. I know they're a little bit different nowadays, a little bit bigger. But these are the ones I have, and I still really like these versions, to be honest. So you just had a Scorpion, Ermac, and Reptile. And you can see that Motaro is much bigger than him, so really cool to see how much bigger this character is. Alright, and then here they are with the Cyrax, and he's a Cyber Ninja. So you can see he is a little bit bigger than the regular ninjas. And then for the next comparison, here they are with Goro, and you can see that Goro is literally a hair taller. The hair is the only thing making him taller than Motaro. But they're both really close. It's about the same height almost, really. But you can see they're very close in size, but Motaro is still just a much bigger character. Alright, and for the last Storm Collectibles comparison, here's Shao Kahn along with all the other Storm Collectibles Mortal Kombat figures that I have in my collection. They do make some other really cool figures, but I just wanted to give you kind of like a scale shot all together, just to showing you like the range of size between these characters. It's really, really cool. I also have a Raiden, like a red version of Raiden. I just haven't opened that one yet. But just a really cool collection of stuff from Storm. I can't recommend these enough. For the next comparison, here he is with the Mortal Kombat 11 Spawn figure, and this is made by McFarlane Toys. And I think these actually scale decent together. Spawn might be a little tall, but you could definitely make it work. And if you're wondering about the gun, that's a gun from the Devil May Cry figure that NECA made. But yeah, I think the Mortal Kombat, like McFarlane stuff, can actually scale pretty well with some of the Storm figures. And here he is with the Street Fighter Figuarts Vega figure. And again, I think these actually scale pretty good too. I generally display him with my Mortal Kombat stuff, so you can see the scale is pretty much right in line with Scorpion. So yeah, they'll scale pretty well with these as well. And for your NECA comparisons, your first NECA comparison, here he is next to the Casey Jones and the Raphael in Disguise from the Ninja Turtles 1990 movie, and then you have the 1989 Michael Keaton Batman. And again, I think these could work and scale together. They're not like too far off. They're actually like right in scale with the Spawn figure as well. So yeah, I mean, you can work this Motaro with some variety of different 6 and 7 inch scale figures. And then for your larger NECA figures, here's the Super Shredder from the Secret of the Ooze Ninja Turtles movie, and then the Krang android body from the '87 cartoon series. And you can see they're all kind of in that same scale, and they definitely fit really nice with Motaro. And then for the final Motaro comparison, here he is with a bunch of other 6 inch scale figures, and you can see how 6 inch scale can vary. So you have the Mattel Build-A-Figure for King Shark, you have the Super 7 Lion-O, the Mafex Bane from Dark Knight Trilogy, the Mezco Wolverine, like the Tiger Stripe one. Then you have the newer Marvel Legends Wolverine, and then we have a G.I. Joe Baroness. And you can see that they can kind of scale together with this. You could definitely make it work. The Mafex tend to be a bit on a small side, and then Lion-O with the Super 7 tends to be on like the chunkier, larger size, but they can all, I think, work somehow in pictures. Alright, for the final comparison, I just had to do a skeleton comparison here. So here's the Storm Bloody Skeleton with the NECA Toys Halloween 3 Season of the Witch Skeleton Boy, and then you have the Mattel Master Universe Classics Scareglow, and then you have a Terminator from the video game made by NECA Toys. It's like the red Terminator. And then this is an old one made by October Toys, which isn't around anymore, but they made these like skeleton warriors and stuff, and they made a bunch of skeletons back then. So yeah, I mean, this is a really cool skeletons of all the different ones I have, and I have more skeletons in my collection, but this one is probably the best looking one I have. It's really detailed, very realistic. I could definitely see him fitting in like some Evil Dead pictures and stuff like that. So really cool addition for this figure. Alright, so that's my review of the Storm Collectibles Motaro. And overall, it is a really cool figure. I gotta be honest, at first I was a little kind of overwhelmed with the size of this figure. You know, kind of adding another huge figure to the collection. It's always tough, especially if you're working with, you know, your space is kind of being taken up more and more as you collect. So it was a little, you know, I had little reservations about that, I guess. But the skeleton definitely pushed me over, man. That definitely won me over. It's an awesome accessory. It's just an awesome character, really, to add to the Motaro set. So I'm really happy that they added that. So for me, that kind of pushed me over to kind of take the gamble, and I'll just figure out the space. But I did figure out somewhere to display it. You can take the tail off if you wanted to, but the paint will definitely start chipping if you do that. I wouldn't recommend it. But overall, I really do like the figure. I mean, the articulation's really good, the look is really good, the head sculpts are awesome, man. Like, I can't decide which one I like better, but they're both really good. So overall, I mean, just, you know, the quality of it, the articulation, the paint, just the additional pieces that you get, I'm definitely won over on the figure. And if you're really not won over on the figure, I mean, it's so hard to not want this skeleton in your collection, especially if you're a Mortal Kombat fan or a horror fan. It just fits so well. So they definitely found a way, I think, to get people a little bit more excited about the figure, even if they weren't like 100% sold on it. But it is a really cool figure. I mean, the only downside I have to the Storm figures is sometimes when you're moving around the articulation, things like that, like the arms or like the hands or even sometimes the legs might pop off, but everything does pop back, you know, pop back together. I guess if you've been collecting the line, you're kind of used to the way these are made. So it's not like, you know, like the NECA figures where it's all just like solid plastic and a little bit of rubber or softer goods overlay. I mean, these are really like a mixture of soft and harder plastics, so you have to kind of get used to that over time, you know. So you just have to handle them a little bit differently than you do other figures. But they are really well constructed. I just hope in, you know, my head that they'll last, you know, the test of time. Will they stand the test of time? That's the biggest thing I always wonder with the softer, you know, rubber and like softer plastics. So thanks for watching my review. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video if you liked it. Leave a comment or question if you have one. And until next time, guys. See ya.